Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So today's video was going to be Grunt, my cat Grunt, his favorite things, his favorite food, treats, toys, stuff like that. But when I filmed this video, I realized that I had to tell the whole backstory of how I got Grunt and his family and stuff, because Grunt is actually not the only cat that I've had. I actually at one point had 4 cats, so I felt like I needed to do his story justice, and so I had to tell the story time of how I got him, and then I also filmed like his favorite things, like what I do to take care of him and stuff. So I ended up putting this into 2 videos because it just felt right having like the story time of how I got him and then his favorite things. So this is going to be the story of how I got Grunt. One of the things that I didn't say in the video is how Grunt got his name. So this is spoiler alert on how I had 4 cats, but when Grunt was being birthed into the world, this is like so horrific to even tell this story online. But my dad, as you'll like hear in the story, my dad delivered all of the kittens. And when Mama Cat pushed out Grunt into the world, it was, there were noises that came out, and he said that there was a lot of grunting, and because Grunt was so big, he's the biggest cat out of all of the kittens, and that's why he got his name Grunt. My dad was, he was a type of man. That's how Grunt got his name. There's no way I could change his name after like 12 years of life. So that's how he got his name. And then you'll find out the rest of how Grunt came to be with me in this video. And I hope that you enjoy. Okay, first things first, I have full glam on today, which I don't normally do. And this eyelash is kind of popping off. So let's just keep in mind that I am not the beauty guru of the house. But I did try my best. So the first thing that I wanted to start off with is Grunt's story. I'm so, my eyes are watering because I'm like so excited that you guys wanted to hear like a video all about Grunt. Like I'm actually gonna cry, oh my goodness. Okay, get it together, Alyssa. I wish that I had pictures of him as a baby, but I honestly don't know if we have any. I'll try to locate some if I can. I know that I started taking pictures of the cats like once Instagram became a thing, but I mean, when we got him, like digital cameras weren't even really a thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were a thing, but not in my family. Like we had disposables only. So Grunt, my baby boy, we think that he's about 15. It's kind of hard to say, and I'll tell you why. So in order to tell you like Grunt's full story, I have to bring you all the way back to when I was but a child. So when I was a kid, I lived with my dad, and I have one brother, and he lived with my mom. I was very lonely. I wasn't allowed to have friends up to the house a lot, and I wasn't really allowed to go out a lot. So I spent all my days like after school kind of just like by myself, just with my dad, playing on the computer and stuff like that. And I was really, really lonely. And I was telling my dad like that I was feeling lonely. And honestly, I didn't have very many friends anyway. Like I had like 1 or 2 friends, and we would like go to the swimming pool, but I wasn't very popular as a kid. My clothes were from Superstore and people picked on me and stuff like that. And this is really, really sad, but I've always kind of been more like full in the bottom area, which is so weird to think about like talking about this with literal children. But I got really like made fun of because I had a big bum. Even in like, what was that? Like grade 4 or 5. So it's just crazy to think that like kids are so hurtful at such a young age. Like, are you joking? Like we should be out like playing like basketball and hockey and volleyball and not talking about each other's bodies that are still developing. And regardless, it doesn't fucking matter. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I didn't have a lot of friends. I was really lonely. My dad had this computer recycling business. So this was before you could take like electronics and stuff like that to the bottle depot to get recycled appropriately and like responsibly. And so he had this recycling company where they would recycle and refurbish computers and monitors and stuff like that, and make them into like patios and like just weird stuff. I don't really understand fully what his company was because I don't know. But anyway, it was like a computer recycling company. So they had like big piles of tin that they would, stock up, and then it would be taken away and melted down or what have you, or whatever happened to it, I don't know. But anyway, they had these big piles of tin, and they would sort all of the components of computers into these different piles. And so the tin pile just so happened to be outside. And it was in one of those like big you know, like, I don't know. It's hard to, I don't really know what they're called, but they're like big bins, I guess. And it was just on the outside of the door. And one day my dad was putting tin into the tin pile and he heard meowing. And inside of the tin pile were these two cats that were living. And this computer recycling business was like a little bit out of the way. It wasn't out of the city, but it was like more rural, I guess, or like more industrial. And so we knew that these were like stray cats. And so there were two cats that were in there. One was the cat that my dad ended up taking home for me. And the other one, his business partner at the time, or somebody that was working there, they took the other cat. So this cat came home. My dad brought home a cat one day and said, look, I have a cat for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I loved her so much. She scratched me, actually. I still have a scar. Or no, it's gone. Oh my goodness. Oh, bodies are so crazy. Anyway, she scratched me one time when she first came home, but she was so beautiful and I loved her so much. And one day my dad was sitting on the couch with her and he had his like hand on her tummy and he started feeling his hand going like this. Like he felt something kicking. Y'all, my cat went out and got herself pregnant. My cat was an indoor/outdoor cat, so she would go outside and hang out, do her thing during the day, and then she would come home and sleep inside with us. And she and another lovely cat from the neighborhood were feeling a little frisky, and they made babies. So my cat was pregnant, and she ended up giving birth to 4 babies. So the 4 babies in order were Grunt, was the first one to come out, then Stripe, then Mitten, and then Little One. So my dad ended up delivering these babies with her. I wasn't home. I was at my mom's for the weekend when it happened. And we were intending on giving these babies away to a good home. And so my dad, I don't know how he did that, like if he put it online or something like that, but he ended up finding some people who wanted these babies. And one person was interested in Grunt specifically. And when the time came to give up one of the babies, my dad couldn't do it. So the decision was made that we were going to keep all 4 babies. And so I grew up basically in a house with 5 cats. We have Mama Kitty and then the 4 babies. Baby number 4, Little One, who I named because my mom always called me Little One. It was her who called me Little One. Aw, Mom, I was the little one. She ended up passing away quite early on, so I think that we only had her for about 2 years. I can't remember why she passed away. For the life of me, I have no idea. But she got picked on a lot by the other cats because she was so small. She was the runt of the litter. And so we had to keep her segregated from the other cats. We had this patio that had been enclosed and it was quite large. Like it wasn't small. It's not like she was, trapped or anything like that. But at night she would go in there and she would have her own little safe space, and that was where the TV was and stuff like that. So she actually got a lot of attention. So she lived in there, but she just kept getting sicker and sicker. She was sick before we put her in there, and she just kept getting sicker and sicker, and then eventually she did pass away. And I'm pretty well, I just don't know because he's not here to tell me. I can't remember. I don't think that my dad put her down. I think that she did pass away. Anyway, Little One ended up passing away. The next thing that happened was one day we had let the cats out in the morning or whatever, and they were just like doing their thing. And then when it was time for them to come all back in, Grunt did not come back. And so my dad looked for a really long time and we realized that he was not coming home. So we thought that Grunt had run away, and my dad had this idea that the people across the street were not like the greatest people, but they really, really loved Grunt. And they had moved away literally moved the same day that Grunt went missing. And so he had this conspiracy that they took Grunt with them when they moved. For 2 years, I think it was, my dad was looking at like SPCAs, and he actually found out where those people lived, and he went down and would like just drive around their house, like not bother them, but like drive around their house to see if he could see Grunt. And obviously nothing came to fruition. Well, not obviously because we have him, but nothing came to fruition for a really long time. And then one day my dad was looking at the newspaper and he saw an ad from the SPCA, and it was an all black cat, which is what Grunt is. And it looked like Grunt, and he was up for adoption. And so we went down, saw this cat, and he had his little tongue sticking out. And we were like, why does his tongue stick out like that? Like Grunt's tongue didn't stick out like that. And they ended up telling us that when they found him, he had his jaw broken. And from what they gathered from the injury, the force was so great or whatever that the only thing that could have happened is that a human had kicked him in the face and broken his jaw. So that was really, really devastating and hard to kind of hear. But the woman who had worked at the SPCA actually took him into her home and nursed him back to health, away from all the other cats, because his injury was so severe. So we're really, really thankful for her. And she actually took care of Grunt another time when we went away, and they got to spend time together. But anyway, at the time, his name was Jazzy, or Jazzy Boy, because he had a broken jaw. And right when we went in there, my dad kneeled down to say hi to the cat, and he immediately jumped up and curled around my dad's neck, which is exactly what Grunt used to do. So my dad was pretty convinced that Grunt was Grunt. The rest of the family, we were kind of skeptical. Obviously, it's like 2 years. Like, the chances of you getting your cat back after 2 years are so slim. And we hadn't had him tattooed either. So there was no way for us to find out if that really was Grunt, because there were just no markings. We didn't microchip him. I don't even think that was a thing at the time. And so anyway, we brought him home. We slowly integrated him back into the cat family. And yeah, everything was well and good. We had the 4 cats because little one had passed away. And then when my dad got sick and I moved back home to take care of him, he had told me that it was really important for him that obviously the cats, you know, stay in the family. And he was really, really, really like worried that I was going to drop him off at the SPCA or something. And that's just, obviously, you guys, if you watch me, you know me, like there's no way I could have ever done that. But he would ask me over and over, like, because I would tell him that I was moving back to Toronto, and he's like, what about the cats? What about the cats? And I'm like, Dad, I'll take them with me. Like, they're not going anywhere. So when my dad did pass away, I ended up with all 4 cats. I went from literally never having an animal to having 4 cats. And at the time, 2 of the cats, Stripe and Mitten, had diabetes as well. So I was giving them their insulin injections twice a day and monitoring the insulin and stuff like that. Because with cats, diabetes is actually curable. So there can become a time where you don't have to give them injections anymore. So I had to keep bringing them back in. I would have to like check their blood sugar. It was like, oh my goodness. It was so like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love those cats so much, but it was a lot of work, man. When I decided that I was going to move back to Toronto, it was always the goal. I was always going to move back to Toronto. I knew that I couldn't move in anywhere with 4 cats. So I ended up asking my brother. My brother wanted the one cat that he bonded with the most, which was Mitten. And she's since passed away naturally from diabetes or cancer. I can't remember. But she was pretty sick by the time that we got her. And then he also ended up with Mama Cat. And I really obviously love Mama Cat so much. She was my cat. She was my first cat. But I knew that the boys, Stripe and Grunt, were so bonded together. They would snuggle, they would play. They loved each other so much. There was no way that I could split them up. And Stripe was actually my other cat. So when the babies were born, my brother and I bonded right away with one of the cats. So I bonded with Stripe, and Chris bonded with, my brother's name was Chris. Chris bonded with Mitten. And then my dad bonded with little one and Grunt. And so there was no way that I could not have Stripe as well. So it was really, really hard decision. But my brother ended up with Mama Cat. And then my mom actually ended up taking care of Mitten because 2 cats was a lot, man. So anyway, the cats stayed in the family, but I ended up with Stripe and Grunt. And so in Toronto, we're living, the boys are loving each other. They're so happy. On Christmas Eve 2 years ago, Stripe ended up having to be put down. He was in a lot of distress. He had diabetes, and he also had cancer in his mouth. So he had this big, big lump in his mouth that wasn't growing. It caused him a little bit of discomfort for sure, but the surgery to remove it would have been so painful for him, and we didn't even know if he would come back from the anesthesia. Anyway, so he ended up dying from either diabetes, cancer. His liver was shutting down, and he was in a lot of distress. So we took him to the emergency vet on December 24th, and he ended up passing away that day in my arms. And I miss him so much. I love him so much. But he stays in my living room. So we did get him cremated, and he lives in my living room, and he gets to snuggle with me and Grunt. Via proximity. Ugh, why am I so emotional? Like, it's actually crazy. That brings us to Grunt. So Grunt and Mama Kitty are the only 2 surviving from the Anderson family home. That is why Grunt's tongue hangs out as well, just to get back to that, because people ask me all the time. So when his jaw was reset or healed or whatever, I guess it healed in a way where his tongue just hangs out. It doesn't seem to bother him. I feel like he's probably just used to it by now. There's nothing we can do. Obviously, the injury healed the way that it did. And sometimes when he's really relaxed, it'll hang out like all the way. And sometimes when he's like playing or something, it'll be all the way in his mouth. It honestly looks weird to us having his like tongue in his mouth because we're so used to him with his little blep. Anyway, that's why his tongue hangs out, if anybody is wondering, because I've told that story so many times. Well, you guys, that is the story of Grunt. That's the story of his family, Mama Cat, Mitten, Stripe, Little One, my daddy, and then Grunt, of course. So I hope that you enjoyed that story time. My eyes are watering again. Like I'm not even like a thing. I hope that you enjoyed that story time. I hope that you enjoyed learning about my baby boy, who means more than anything in this world to me, even if he keeps me up at all hours of the night, because he is a very noisy boy. He's a very vocal cat, okay? Maybe in the next video I'll insert clips of him meowing, because it's like, it's actually next level. But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, if you like watching my content, please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me out. And if you like this video, it helps me know that you like videos like this and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on Friday with Grunt's favorite toys.